This is Gary King here at La Forêt Studio again, and it's the 13th of November, coming up to the weekend, and I've got my old mate Steve Michael here.
Hello. Nice to be here.
And Steve's come over for just a final run on his second EP that we've recorded, and being rather biased as I am, I put Steve in this market of being a true professional and a great songwriter. So before we were going to run through our bits and bobs and the last little bits before we do the finalisation of the track, I thought it'd be nice to do another music chat that isn't to do with the other nonsense that I put up on on our channel, which Steve also knows about. But you know, we've been working since about 2019 now, haven't we?
I think so, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's been a few years, and I you know, like I say, I'm not blowing anyone's horn here, but I class Steve as a very excellent songwriter and a very competent songwriter as well. And a few years ago, I tried to challenge him to write me a bad song, and he couldn't do it. Not in my opinion, anyway. So it's not heavy metal, it's not heavy rock or anything. It's rock-based, almost traditional British sound, isn't it?
I guess. I suppose it's pop rock, traditional sort of song structures, I guess, in the pop rock vein, I would say. Yes, you can hear sort of different influences in it, I think.
So the obvious, first question, which of course I know all these answers anyway, but your influence is primarily, let's say, your main sort of, let's say, four that you would grab at or gravitate to.
Well, my first love musically was rock and roll, and I discovered rock and roll and rockabilly and rhythm and blues through hearing Elvis Presley for the first time. I think it was like Jailhouse Rock I heard, and I just had to get some of this music, and it was my nan that bought me my first LP. It was one of those music for pleasure LPs where it was all done by session musicians.
Yeah,
and I had no idea they weren't the originals because I was too young.
That's what I used to play in the shops, right?
I used to be
music.
I must have been about 10, but I absolutely fell hook, line, and sinker for rock and roll, and I became a massive Elvis Presley fan. Still am, really. So I stayed with rock and roll, rockabilly and rhythm and blues right through till about the age of 16. I was just completely obsessed with it. And then after that, I started to be aware of other pop rock that I was interested in. So, for example, I discovered the Beatles, people like Van Morrison. I became very interested in 1960s music, and it's part of the reason for that was because when I was 16 I sort of stumbled into the 80s, and I didn't like the music that I was hearing in the charts in the 80s. There was the odd song or artist that I liked, but I really, they talk about how people associate a song with a certain time in their life. Well, it didn't work like that for me.
No.
I didn't like a lot of the 80s pop or the synthesized pop, like the Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet. It just wasn't for me. Much more it would gravitated towards the soul of the 60s and the pop rock, and then some music from the 70s. So I've been sort of playing catch up all my life in a sense, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's funny because like there was a big thing, wasn't there, in the 80s? Because I still think the 80s and the early 90s generated some interesting things. So you had your typical top of the pop stuff. So like your Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff, and then you had your bands like Duran Duran, Tears for Fears, Spandau, all that, and then slotted in every now and again you would get like Elvis Costello, Squeeze, but very rarely, wasn't it?
Oh no, I was a massive Costello and Squeeze fan.
Yeah,
but they'd already sort of hit their heyday in a way.
Yeah.
But they were carrying on their careers during the 80s. Yeah. But I loved Squeeze and Elvis Costello.
Yeah, which I think has been a big influence especially in some of the vocal stuff that we've done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
With the lower, because I as soon as I listened to that, I was like, I knew exactly where you were coming from. So I downloaded some tracks, Elvis Costello, Squeeze and so on, and sort of dissected the ideas from those artists. Again, they were all very much guitar driven, harmonic.
It was kind of labelled new wave, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That and sort of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But yeah, no, I was very much into Squeeze. Costello's voice was a major influence on my singing, as was Elvis Presley's the singing style and pronunciation, and Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze, massive influence. Yeah. So I was very much drawn to voices too.
And I think that was another thing that was unique, perhaps more back then. And this is without criticising anything that happened, has gone on over the last, say, 15 years. But to me, and I think you'll agree with this, and you're an example of it, when people hear you sing, you don't sound like anybody else. Okay. Steve's got a very, very good singing voice as well. In fact, he's one of the most precise recording singers that I've met, to be honest. And we'll go into that in a minute. But if you look at all those people, as soon as you heard that person on the radio, you knew it was, didn't you?
Yeah.
You didn't have to see them.
That's
you
true.
Knew. And sometimes the singers weren't great technical singers, but they had an amazing voice. And then sometimes the great technical singers, you could mix them up with anybody because they sounded very similar. Could come from that trained school of thought.
Yeah.
Whereas the bands that you used to see, like on the Tube and, or, not the station, the Tube, but the TV show.
The TV show, yeah.
And like on Jules Holland and stuff like that, in the earlier days, you knew exactly who it was as soon as you heard them sing. And I think a lot of music today has lost some of that identity because, like, if you take the, say in quotes, female artists, especially the stuff that's more pop based, they all sound exactly the same. It's very difficult to tell who they are.
Similar singing styles.
That over the top, that Mariah Carey, up and down the scales, one word. Not that they haven't got good voices. I'm not saying that, but we come, because we're the same age, so we come from the same school of thought. On that, we both, obviously this is in France and we both live in France. Steve's been here longer than me. How long have you been here now?
18 years, I think.
Oh, you haven't been here longer than me then. I've been here 20 years.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I thought you've been here.
I moved over here full time in 2005.
Yeah.
No,
so I guess,
wait, 2008. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we came into the beginning of 2006. Anyway, what was your first sort of, your first memorable band experience? Like, because I know you busked, didn't you? You used to do some busking.
On the rock and roll.
I saw that picture of you being arrested by the police. Well, I think anyway.
Yeah, definitely. No, we did. We got arrested. Yeah. Taken to the police station.
Fantastic.
We actually played them a tune in the police station as well. They told us to take the money and run, basically. Anyway, it's kind of difficult to say because I feel like I missed out on the bands of the time, the big bands of the time, because from the age of about 14 through to, I don't know what it was, 16, 17, I was going to the rock and roll clubs.
Yeah.
And these were sort of revival clubs that I absolutely lived for. I loved them. And they had small bands that were replicating the music of the 1950s. So they'd be playing some early Gene Vincent, or they'd be playing some Charlie Feathers or Johnny Cash or Johnny Burnett and the Rock and Roll Trio. And so I was much more interested in that at the time. I must confess that I wasn't a great gig goer when I was younger. It's something I regret. So, for example, I lived in Colchester, go out drinking with my friends and all the rest of it. And there was a university nearby, and we very seldom went to the university to see some of the bands that were doing the university circuit. So I feel like I missed out on that a bit,
But when you first went out and played yourself, did you do the band thing? You put a band together, or did you? Because Steve does a lot of solo stuff over here.
Well, I was in the first. The first band I was in. I was quite young. It was a band called Silver Wings, and we did a few gigs at kids' parties and things like that. It was not a bad band because we were sort of like how can I say, mentored by the dad of the drummer of the band, and it wasn't a bad little band. And in that band, at one time, I remember we played with just sort of jammed with Dave Rowntree, the drummer of Blur.
Oh right, yeah,
because he lived just round the corner. But then I formed a band with a guy who is now known as James Hunter, and he's an inverted commas, like a legend almost, on the blues and soul circuit. He's very popular in America. Yeah. And but at the time, this was before he went into London to he became known on the blues circuit in London as Howling Wilf.
Oh, right.
And he was quite successful, and then he changed his name later to James Hunter. So I did his first gig with him, but he's so good, there was no place for me in that band. We were both singers and guitarists, so, you know. And also, he was very heavily into the blues, and I was being drawn to pop rock.
Right,
you know.
yeah.
I needed to move away from that. And I think I was in a small sort of like a vintage sort of retro jazz and rockabilly band. That was the one that was where I was busking. I think that was after I left James Hunter's group. And then it was just like messing around at University College, which I went to, you know, because I went on to study at University College in London and sort of became a teacher and all the rest of it. So I didn't really form a band again until I was about 28,
Right.
when I lived in Bristol.
Yeah.
And then in Bristol I had this band, and we did mostly covers, I think. It was fun. We did a lot of tracks of the time, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Blur and Oasis and stuff like that. It was good.
Yeah. So, and then of course we're over here now, and Steve, probably out of everybody that I know, plays a shitload of gigs every year. In fact, he plays more gigs than most of these so-called big bands put together, I think, to be honest with you, who do tours with like a month. But I was explaining to a couple of people like Gina in France, we're in France, like Gina in Australia, it'd be very difficult for her to be able to get about over there because of the distances, and also, but here in France, it's quite a different experience, really, isn't it? I mean, I know somebody that you know does quite a lot of gigs in the UK, but you explain, you know, I hate the word landlocked, because we're not landlocked. You're sea locked in England, aren't you? It's the sea that goes around you, not the land.
Yeah.
But over here, you can drive for miles, can't you? Mile upon mile upon mile. You can drive down to Spain, Italy, and so on, without ever having to get on an aeroplane or get on a boat.
That's true.
So over here, you do the majority of your gigs in the Carrez and the lot, don't you?
I do. I don't do tours around Europe, for example.
No.
I would like to, but I don't. But I do manage to get a lot of my gigs in the local area. And interestingly, when I left the UK to come here, I noticed that in the UK the karaoke was springing up everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Every pub and bar was doing karaoke, and I'm pretty sure that the gigs were sort of drying up for a lot of bands over there. But over here, it's people really value live music. I'm not saying they don't in the UK, because it's coming back around again in the UK, but it's. I think I'm right in saying it's slightly better paid here because there's less of a classist system here. Musicians are respected, as are, you know,
a lot of the arts, right?
Yeah, a lot of the arts are respected. People support them. There's also a system here where if I get 43 gigs in 12 months, the government will actually pay me a basic minimum wage.
Yeah, so how about
to
that?
Survive. Yeah.
Even though Steve knows my opinions on governments, over here they at least give you a chance to fail. Yeah. Right? So you imagine, and I think you told me that you also got paid to rehearse, right? Because it was done by the hour or something
some cachets, they call them, can count as rehearsals, but the way to view that is people like lighting engineers and actors and stage designers
stage
or whatever,
people,
makeup artists, they all get temporary contracts, and of course when there's a rehearsal they have to turn up, and in the sort of higher levels of theatre, I suppose, and television, people will get paid to rehearse, right?
That's right, yeah.
So, but it's not quite the same for musicians. Unless you're right up there, you're rehearsing for Sting, who's on tour, you'll probably get paid for that, and it will count as a cachet.
Yeah,
but most of the cachets I get are just playing in bars and playing for venues, restaurants, village or town fetes.
Yeah, which there are a lot, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. So,
in the summer here,
in
the summer here, they have these various events, and there's one that we have here called the Meshwi, which is 400 or 500 people go to this.
Yeah, and there's also the Fête de la Musique, which is on the 21st of June, the summer solstice.
Yeah.
And the idea is that it's designed to launch, I think, musicians to show their wares.
Yeah.
And it's true that when you go out and play, I mean, for me, I've been very lucky. I haven't really had to look that hard for gigs this year. It's often the case that when I play, somebody will come up and ask for a card.
And you also get to play a lot of your own material, don't you?
I do, yeah. I mean, I try and work, because I'll play for, I would say, generally I've played for about 2 hours. It's a long time, I've realised now. I think 2 45-minute sets is more reasonable, which is what I'm going to work on the basis for the future.
Yeah.
But I do try and throw in some of my original music songs,
is, what
people are interested to hear them.
And that's the thing. The funny thing about France, when you listen to the radio over here, they play. I mean, they're allowed to play a certain amount of English music or English sung music alongside a certain amount of French music,
I think it's
right?
50-50.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it was a little bit different years ago.
Yeah,
it was for every one song they had to play 4 French songs or something like that, right? But anyway, so our old lady who used to live next door is no longer here anymore, and she was knocking on. She was 90 odd. She'd have France Bleu on, right? And all it was Michael Jackson. Billy Idol, White Wedding, all the old songs, but it was a repeat after it. But when you go to some of they have these things here called the Zenith Theatres, don't they? There's one up in Limoges.
Oh yeah,
which looks like a big giant flying saucer. And I went up there to see my mate Martin, who worked for everybody from Gary Newman to, well, just everybody he's worked for. But we went to see this Pink Floyd tribute thing called Ozzy Floyd, which I was not into at all, because I can't stand all that tribute stuff, sorry. But it was very, very good, really good actually. But it was like, they had all the tour truck in, everything was like Bon Jovi had arrived, It was packed. And people here seem to be, they don't worry about the weather. If it's a bigger type of thing, which that was a bigger thing, obviously. But a little while ago, I went to see Steve play up a thing. I call it the Monkey Ponky Chant, right?
The Lundi Monkey Chant, yeah.
Chant being sing, right?
Yeah.
Right, to sing. I thought we'd surprise Steve, because I never go out, right? I just don't go out anymore, right? So I convinced my neighbour, who is Ekmat, the guy we've released a couple of songs, Raf, to take me up there to go and see Steve. So of course Steve is all shocked that Gary's here, right? But
after you picked me off the floor.
Yeah. But this venue is superb, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's again partly funded by the state. Lots of big artists travelling through the area will try and fix a date there. It's a very serious venue, and we had the opportunity to play, because I play in a 4-piece band here. And we had the opportunity to play about an hour of my compositions that we had been working on. So it was a great experience. Yeah, really good.
And this place, it's like, I mean, I don't agree with free to get in, because I think sometimes people just don't bother going. But it's free to get in. At a nice bar. It's got a nice bar.
Yeah, professional stage.
The stage,
lighting.
the stage, the stage is big enough to have 2 kits,
right.
One roll on and one roll off.
That's true,
right? So your drummer, what's his name?
Guillaume.
Shout out to Guillaume here. Bonjour, Guillaume. Was that his drum set?
Don't
think it was.
Don't think it was. No.
No, lovely drum set, right? And all the gear, I think most of the gear, like
we brought our amps.
Bass. You bought your amps. So
yeah, the bass I can't remember.
That was a Mark bass. I don't know if that was Philippe's. But anyway, really well set out.
Yeah.
The sound wasn't great, because the sound in there is really good, but the kiddie doing it, just I suppose he was one of them ones who's just like was there just to do the job. But overall, it was a 9 out of 10. But the venue is superb, and if you wanted to do a showcase, it's a great place. And if it's this place called Toul, which is next to Brive, then there are venues like that all over France. So you could primarily put together a whole tour with a van, with a trailer on the back, with your gear in. There was a girl who played the harp who came to Sioniac, which is, there's nobody lives here. And I thought, well, that's a funny thing to bring here. Electronic pop. And she was very good, actually. But 200 people turned up to that.
Yeah.
And people I'd never ever seen before. So that's one of the things that I think is, you know, for people that want to, are thinking about touring around Europe, I don't think France is a bad place to come, to be honest with you.
No.
And like we said, is that, you know, there are, me and Steve are looking at the moment, and there's, what's it called, the registration thing here?
SACEM.
SACEM, right?
Is the equivalent of the PRS.
PRS in England,
the Performance Rights Society.
Yeah.
SACEM will collect royalties on your behalf from anywhere in the world, really.
Yeah.
And they're pretty efficient.
Well,
I get the impression.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that is, I've been a member of the PRS, which of course is the performing rights. So because I'm not performing, but like, say for argument's sake, me, I've produced your record. I can register that as long as I show that I produced your record, i.e. showing a cover and things like that, right? That's what I have to do. Well, in the 30 years that I've been a member of the PRS, I've never got a bean out of them.
Right.
Right? And they keep talking about how they've given all this money out to all these people like Elton.
Oh, yeah.
But it's people like us never get the money back. But you actually got a couple of checks.
I did. Yeah, I do.
Your first record.
Don't ask me how or why. Yeah, no. If it gets because I register the songs as the author of the songs, the writer and of the lyrics and the music, basically.
Yeah.
You know, then I get some royalties. There's another organisation called Spedidam in France, where if you interpret somebody's song, like you play on the record.
Yeah.
Play the drums like you have, or you play the bass like Philippe has, you know, this, that and the other, then you can claim your right as an interpreter of somebody's song, and you get paid royalties for that. And it does work, because I get paid from Spedidam for interpreting my own songs.
That's just
it's amazing.
Crazy.
So if you do things properly, it is and then what that does is it inspires you, or one, to try and increase your number of streams and plays on YouTube and Spotify, Deezer, because I think if you really put your mind to it, you can earn some money.
Yeah, and you can cover your costs. And this is the thing. This is what we were saying is, you know, anybody that listens to our other podcasts, and like when I did the chat with Mike Williams about my connections with the McCartneys. But the thing is, what we've always tried to do is we don't want to be part of that dodgy club, right? All we want to do is work on music and cover our costs and be able to pay our bills, which seems pretty reasonable, really. And I think that's one of the things is what you've just said is, if you wanted to print some CDs and you found out that your previous CD, it's a 6-track EP, right? The first one we did was 6, wasn't it? Right? This organisation got you back enough money to print up another 100 CDs. You're always
That's
on
true.
a winner, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of these situations, when you're paying out, and I know, you know, Gina might listen to this, but, you know, she was looking at coming over here with his company, and, you know, when you look into it, the cost is astronomical, because you got to take, if just say for argument's sake, she flew in, right? So she got to cover her costs first off, and then let's just say she used me, Lucio, Fab, and somebody else play guitar. They're all going to want to get paid, so they can't go from Italy, Portugal, wherever. No. Right? We'd all have to do our pre-production and rehearsal, and the guys are good enough that they would not need a rehearsal, just one run through. But then when you look at what it costs to rent a people carrier and a trailer to go out for 2 weeks, you're looking at a lot of money.
You are. Yeah.
So people turn around and they go, yeah, but you sell your merch. And you go, yeah, all right, you sell your merch. But when we were doing the Exorcism tour, excuse the name of the band there, but the Exorcism tour with when I first met Luch, these festival organisers wanted a percentage of our merch that we had. Right, so we were paying them as well as getting, so our percentage wasn't great. So when you put all those things together and you work it out, any organisation that genuinely gets some of your money back for you, it's got to be good, isn't it? Even if it was it's pennies, it doesn't matter, because it gives you that opportunity to be able to. I mean, for example, Steve's got a website; he has to pay for that, and people don't realise that. I was talking to a friend of ours about this the other day. And she was saying, oh, yeah, you know. I said, well, don't you think that musicians and artists and sculptors, and don't you think those people should get paid if that's their profession? Of course they should get paid. It doesn't mean you've got to be rich and famous. It just means that you could tour and you could play and you could teach. That's another thing.
Yeah.
So on that little note there, we're going to just have a little talk about Steve's songwriting. But I have to say that I think if I was going to go out and play a game, I'd go out and play with Steve. And I don't mean play with Steve, you know what I mean? Not that kind of thing. I'd go out and play drums with Steve because his music, for me, fits all the criteria of things that I grew up on and I like myself, right? The big thing for me, and this is coming into this realm of producing records, it's always the songwriting and the melody that sticks. That's the first thing that hits me. And Steve has this unique knack. I don't know how he does it. When you listen to his songs, the demos of his songs, you go, yeah, well, that, you could do that. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. You could do that. I never came across one of the songs out of the 30 odd that you played me where I went, don't know about that one, mate. I was like, oh, yeah, I love that part in that song. We could, you know. Now, I'm not going to ask you how you do that because you're going to say, I don't know. But what is the thing that inspires you to write a song? It is, you know, like some people sit down and try and work it out, but you were just talking about one upstairs whilst we were having a coffee with a title in it. We won't go into that, but for example, Steve's done not controversial song, but he's done a song called In 1,000 Years. For me, that song relays the era that we're living in and what is going on in a way. Like Gina's song Celebrity Smile also did the same thing. They're my two anthems of the year, Celebrity Smile and In 1,000 Years. So what is it that gets you to sit down and work a song out? Because your lyrics are superb. I mean, they work so well.
Well, I'm very lucky in that regard because I would say that on the whole, usually if I sit down with a guitar or a piano and fiddle around for about an hour, after about an hour or so, I will find something that I like that perhaps doesn't remind me particularly of anything else. And it might be that I'm just using my voice as a tool just to find a melody, but it's the chords and just gives me an idea. And it could be just two chords with a little bit of melody, and it gives me an idea. And I would say the most part of my songs have started like that. And also, I may have noted some lyrical ideas on my phone.
Right.
Nowadays, I just write down or even record a voice note of a lyrical idea. When I've got a musical idea, I'll go and look at my little notebook or look at my phone for the lyrical ideas I've put down. And sometimes I can marry them together. Yeah. And often my lyrical ideas are little hook lines. In 1,000 Years, however, was a concept that I had in my head when I think about the times that we're going through and the political shift towards the right that's going on. You know, we're talking about things like Brexit, talking about things like Trump, talking about anti-immigration and all that sort of thing. You know, we're going through a bit of a sort of stepping backwards in a sense in terms of the world coming together. We're having a phase where we're just stepping backwards. We're regressing in a sense. Because if you really think about where we are going, and the first line of that song is, "Where are we going with this?" Yeah. It's like, you know, where are we going with this? And my view is, which is very long term, is that where we want to be is a world where everybody has basic human rights. Everybody has the right to education. Everybody has the right to healthcare. Everybody has the right to freedom of expression. And everybody has the right to move wherever they want to go. Exactly. Within reason. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be where we're going, right? Yeah. We're not going to go in the other direction, but we are a bit at the moment. But it's just because things have moved too fast. Everybody's getting a bit frightened by it. And so we're going through a bit of a trough, I would say, at the moment. But that song's about the long-term view. So that was really like a concept idea that I had. And then I started fiddling around with the guitar and found a riff. And the song sort of wrote itself. I was very pleased with that because some of the lines, like, they work very well lyrically. like, for example, will everyone be free to be who they want to be, to say what they've got to say. And there's lines like, go where they need to go, live where they care to live. And so that lyrically it works really well. So I was able to express that idea with the economics of words to fit the tune. So once I've got an idea and a tune, I'll start getting the ideas, the lyrical ideas to fit the tune so it sounds natural.
Well, I've said, again, and I did this with Gina, the last record, and a lot with Steve's, I've played more air guitar downstairs.
Yeah, you can't get royalties for that, mate.
No, I can't. I know, that's a shame, because I'd be able to buy a new car by now. And because of, really, apart when Philippe, Steve's bass player Philippe, he's really good. He runs a record shop, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's a great bass player.
Yeah, he's a great musician.
He did a great job on that first EP, I think.
So, but really, we've kind of done it together, haven't we? Just the two of us, right?
Yeah.
And on this album, on this EP, this last one,
I think we've done all on our own, haven't we?
No, your mate Andy played on.
Bass on the. Andy Davis played. He was my old bandmate from Bristol. Yeah,
on Lucinda, right? Hey, all right, Andy. Cheers, mate. Anyway, so what's been brilliant for me. Steve's very, very easy to work with. You can big me up after all of this, right? Steve's very easy to work with. In all the time that we've recorded, I've never pitched one of his vocals, like had to go in and go, oh, that's a bit of a bum note. So we always sing 3 lead vocals, don't we, that we comp from. Mm-hmm. And then the harmonies, not because we're on a budget or anything, because we're not, but I listen to it and late at night, I think to myself, like, well, I'd really like Steve's harmony there, so I'm going to do exactly the same and do 2 versions of the same harmony left and right. And it makes it sound more like a band. Mm-hmm. Because it's a different texture, isn't it, each time, right? And I've been really lucky that Steve's allowed me to do it. Not gone, here, what the hell is that? No. Right? But like I said, in all the time, and I've worked with some really good musicians, those people that know me, I haven't edited one guitar or any vocals. I might have moved them slightly so they line up a bit better. Do you know what I mean? So like you lead and you double, just they hit the same note in the same place. Not to take away the humanisation of it, but Steve comes over and he records 2 songs, all his vocals, like some extra guitars in an hour. I don't know anybody who can do that. And it's not that it's simple, because it isn't. That you do the lows and the highs and everything like that, and I have to say, like I said, after all the it's been a brilliant thing for me to have somebody who lives not that far from me, about half an hour, who can do that and make again this thing a lot of fun, and then to be able to work on songs where I can sing the songs myself and go, oh, I love the chorus of this song, it's awesome.
I do sometimes do demos with bass and electric guitar and maybe some keyboard, because I want to sort of hear the song come to life a bit. I want to see what it would sound like with a little bit of production, but I don't aim to do a radio playable production. It's just a demo. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I've met you and we live near each other, because I love coming to the studio and recording it properly. I couldn't have the patience to do what you do, sort of do all that sort of EQing and some editing and mastering. I just want to write the songs and play the songs and work out what I've got to play. Yeah. And what I like about coming here is that you've got loads of great ideas about how to fill spaces that I wouldn't have thought about. And also, it's very encouraging for me. I think you bring the best out in me so that I can perform well when I'm recording. So it's great fun.
Yeah, that's what it does for me as well, because, sometimes you sit there and you just think, where do we go? Where are we going with this? Like in a song, right? But that's another thing, you see. It's like I said, it's like when we did Gina's last record, anything that I do with Luch, most wonderful bloke, he knows who he is, everybody knows who he is. He just inspires me every time. Gus, who played on Gina's record, did all the guitars. It's totally inspiring, very, very, very easy. There was no, we can't use that, or can you redo this? What they give is what we use, And I think, like I said, that's one of the things, is that music is frequency and energy. So if you use that frequency and energy to its best and it uplifts you, it's going to uplift the people that listen to it, surely, along the line. After we've done this, we're going to listen to a couple of songs where we've just changed a couple of things, but we got 5 songs for the second EP, which are In a Thousand Years, in Another Life.
In Another Life. Can I just say something about that song?
Yeah.
You were asking me about lyrics and music. That song, I wrote the tune, completely the whole tune, decades ago.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember.
Decades ago.
Yeah.
But I never was able to come up with a lyric to go with it. And then I remembered something that somebody once said, and it was even further back, but I'd never forgotten it. And they'd said, they're talking about somebody that they liked, that they considered they perhaps could have been with in another life. They said something like, in another place, another time, another life. And then I realised that those 3 sentences could work with this tune.
Yeah.
So it shows you that, it took me decades to finish that song, but I just have to wait for the right inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then suddenly it sort of gels together. But anyway, we've got In Another Life, confusingly, In a Thousand Years. We've also got a tune called Lucinda.
Which is very, dare I say this, it's very Gary Barlow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say. I think it's very Elvis Costello.
Yeah, but the chords. As soon as you hear the intro with Steve's piano, you're going to go. I could hear, whatever you think to take that and Gary Barlow. And if he ever actually did write all those songs, he wrote some good songs back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And ding, 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 ding. It's very much like that. But brilliant song.
The chord structure and the melody. Just thinking about it right now. I know the chords are very Elvis Costello-ish. But it also, when I think about it, it reminds me of that song Alison.
Yeah.
So it's my Alison, if you like, in a sense. Yeah. But we've got that. We've got another song called Love Will.
Love Will, so Lucinda and Love Will were...
Or Love Will Hate You.
Yeah, we recorded those a few years back, and then we just polished them up for this. Yeah. And again, they're both brilliant. But
they didn't make it to the first EP.
No.
But they're going to work well on
now,
this one.
because the first EP was the way it was, and the second one is a little bit more beefy.
Right.
And Raf came over and he said, yeah, this is good. So if Raf likes it, then that's all right by me. But we've got this song called Arrow of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, Steve gave me this song, and it was just an acoustic guitar, left and right, and him singing. And then we created what I think is something a bit special. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what Steve says. He has to put up with it.
No, I love it.
But the end
it was the first song you worked on.
The first song I worked on. The end, to me, the end of it is an anthem, and it's very different. The voice is the same, it's Steve, but it's very different, and I could see it at a stadium show with the "Thank you very much, good night," the end of the song, and I love it, and it's brought a lump to my throat every time, and to me it's a very special piece. So we're finalising that at the moment, and then hopefully that's another CD that Steve can take out for his shows. Now, what I was going to end this on is wanted to give a little shout out to James.
Oh yeah.
Because those that follow us, and Gina, Steve is James Michael dad.
Yeah.
James, of course, wrote the song Tested the Water, which is on Gina's third album.
Mm-hmm.
James is a very talented guy, a very good musician actually. He follows in his dad's footsteps, and he's got some great ideas. James presented this song. He came round here because he came round for a couple of years, didn't he, almost, really? Mm-hmm. To get him to sort of get out of his shell a little bit and give him a bit of confidence. Anyway, he presented me this song, which started off a little bit like The Cure. I could see where he was going with it. Anyway, but what he did was, and anybody that wants to listen to it, if you go and check out darkeramusic.com, you will find the albums that we've done on there, and the last album, and James's songs on there as a bonus track. Actually, it's not really a bonus track, but it's on there because Gina sang on it.
That's right.
And my guys played on it, and James played on it as well. But what James did was he played some keyboards on it, and he put strings, orchestral strings on it.
Yeah.
And as soon as he did that, it went from The Cure to a power ballad symphonic song.
Yeah.
So I asked him, said, look, mate, I really think we ought to get someone. He goes, oh yeah, absolutely. So we sent it to Gina.
Good.
She worked her magic, and now James is on an international record.
That's brilliant. No, it's an excellent record.
Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. And it's a real compliment to James's songwriting that Gina wanted to sing it.
Oh, yeah.
I wish somebody would sing one of my songs. I'd be absolutely delighted. And I know that James was absolutely chuffed.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
he is very talented. He's very creative.
Yeah, he's got some brilliant ideas.
He's got a brilliant ideas. He's more imaginative than I am, you know, in terms of creation. He's very artistic. He's very free.
Yeah.
You know, so, and he's very precise with his playing. He's not in any way limited by any kind of music theory. Not that I am particularly, but there's a certain amount of theory in what I do.
Yeah.
But he's not limited by any sort of traditional structures, and so it's very fluid. It's amazing what he can do.
And James is one of these guys as well that he can play the bass, he can play the keyboards, he can play the guitars, he can sing, he writes great lyrics, and he can play. And again, in a really good way as well. It's not like, we can't use any of that. He like I said, and the reason for bringing it up again is because I think it's so important that anybody going on this journey, criticism is a useful thing in some places, but totally unnecessary in most, because if you just constantly criticize people, and I'm not talking about the kind of people that we criticize on the 2020 thing, I'm talking about, artistic people that want to get their ideas out there. You're never going to help anybody, are you?
No.
And this is all of this is, it really is heart and soul, and it is about creating something that means something to somebody.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier on, with some of the music of the past, people met their wives and husbands through music, and they remember those songs that made them, like when they first went out to the beach or something like that. And it is their memories, aren't they? More than anything, more than a movie. As everybody knows, me and Sergio, me and Neil, we love the movies and stuff like that. But I think the thing is that songs, it never goes, does it?
No. And music I've learnt over the years, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
What one person likes, another person will hate. But for me, and I've just carried on trying to do the best I can, slowly but surely. But if one person says they like my song, or they might say that they love this particular song, it makes me very happy. Just
done
one
your job.
person.
You've done your job. That's all it is.
That's all I want to do.
Yeah, you've done your job. And, like I said, for me, I'm very biased. And it's not because Steve comes around here and, well, first of all, I wouldn't ask him to have a chat about it if I didn't like what he did. But I said I've been very, very lucky to have a few people around me that continually inspire me to carry on doing this. So anyway, what is coming up next? What have you got coming up next? We're almost at the end of the year.
What have I got coming up next? Well, I'm playing tomorrow night in a blues band that I created, essentially a 4-piece blues band, because I wanted to put myself under a little bit of pressure to play blues guitar on my own in a band. So, and that's fun because I love rhythm and blues. It's blues and soul, really. I love all that old retro stuff, like I said before. It's in my blood, as it were. And then I've got some gigs sort of peppered out through the winter, playing in pubs and things like that in Brive. But I think the next... It's a nearby town here, but the next job really for me is to really get to grips with preparing to promote this new EP. And I just would like to give a shout out to my good friend Steve Jackson, who, by the way, got me on this road of playing regularly in France. He's American, from South Carolina, but he has lived in France for at least 25 years, I think. And when I moved over here, I met him and we started up a 3-piece rockabilly band together, rockabilly and blues. And he showed me the ropes about finding gigs, and he helped me build my confidence in singing and playing live. So we really played loads of gigs together in campsites. So he really definitely got me on my way, and I think that's probably the big reason why I'm here talking to you today.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Anyway, well, we're gonna have a listen to a couple of songs. I'll put the links in the description to Steve's site,
Steve Michael Music.
Steve Michael Music, sorry.
.com.
SteveMichaelMusic.com. I'll put a link in that. And I recommend anybody who likes good song-written music to check it out. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. But anyway, well, we'll get on and listen to these songs. Thanks, mate, for the time.
Gary.
Oh, by the way, Steve's just delivered me a giant trailer load of wood chip for our potager, for our legume, our vegetable garden.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. I appreciate that as well, mate.
My pleasure.
Don't get any more rock and roll than that, do you? Anyway, it's me and Steve signing out.
Yeah.
So au revoir.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye. Au revoir.